Sadly, we didn't need the International Monetary Fund to tell us that Australia's economic growth is slowing. Stagnant wages, empty shops and higher prices for the necessities of life have been telling us all for ages that the economy was not as strong as boosters had claimed. Treasury and the government's other boffins have official forecasts up 2.25%, but the IMF instead claims that's nothing more now than wishful thinking and have instead set Australia's forecast down sub 2% at 1.7%, showing much more is needed if our record prosperity is to be sustained. Now, I'm not one of those commentators or indeed Labor frontbenchers who think the government can pull a lever and all of this goes away. Rather than government spending largesse, I reckon the economy depends far more on business than government. The economy is weak when business confidence is low. It's stronger when business feels that things are looking better ahead. That's why the main job of government is to get the basics right, rather than to try and fine-tune the economy, as some are doing now on a week-by-week basis. That means taxes as low as possible and regulation as low as possible. And in times of strain, it means doing what the government can to make a bad situation better. Right now, the problem is far less a government that's done the wrong thing, but instead a government that hasn't done the right thing often enough or hard enough. Provided they don't jeopardise the surplus, further tax cuts would be worthwhile, or at least what's in the pipeline brought forward. And certainly there should be no new taxes, like the currently planned increase in the superannuation levy. Likewise, infrastructure spending makes a lot of sense, especially transport infrastructure. That's the lifeblood of a modern economy. What would not make sense, though, is too much government spending for spending's sake, because it's individuals and businesses that create wealth, not government. Likewise, a funny money scheme or so-called quantitative easing would just end up inflating asset prices rather than helping the real economy that determines whether people's cost of living is stable and wages rise. Rather than just talking up the economy, as Josh Frydenberg does constantly, I'd like to see the government actually do something, and do something that has to be structural reform, as well as getting serious about red tape reduction and getting government off the back of small business, which employs half of all Australians. And please, the government's got to stop talking and start acting on power prices and water. There's no doubt we all dodged a bullet when voters rejected Labor in May. But that doesn't mean the Morrison government can rest on its political laurels. For most of the country, well, they're doing it tough and even, but pretty wary. May seems a long, long time ago. And to do nothing or do little government can lose. Doesn't matter how bad the opposition is. That's why the sooner the PM drops any hint of complacency and governs as though the next election depends on it, the better for everyone and the better for our economy. Never forget, this time around, if we cop global headwinds, as the IMF has warned today, or worse, we do it with a $550 billion debt albatross around Australia's neck. And this is why, at the moment, the government's biggest job and biggest risk is economic management.